And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. And today we're talking about New World. This is a game developed by Amazon Game Studios, as the mega corporation makes another attempt at breaking into this lucrative video game market. This is the Jeffrey Bezos MMO. So many of you guys have asked us our thoughts and wanted some info on this one, so we decided to wait out some of the launch server queue problems so we didn't have to try to put out a video while grappling with that. We bought this game and have been jumping in between some other games. So here are some rough first impressions of the main game, the general flow, and what this thing offers. New World needs some work, but it's a pretty cool foundation. Here's the deal, and like I've said this before when we've done first impressions of like Elder Scrolls Online expansions and stuff, MMOs are hard to cover. A lot of the gameplay you see on screen here might not be very exciting, but it does reflect roughly your first 20 or so hours in the game. These things take a long time, honestly, longer than the deadline I was given here, and it's important to note that they're always changing. New World very much still feels like a work in progress, but it's also worth noting that things will change not only as the game is updated, but as a community takes to it. The magic hasn't even really started yet, you know what I mean? With that being said, New World kicks off by you, of course, choosing a server and creating a character. The character is locked to this server, and you can name them and kind of customize their appearance. Body type, a few different preset faces, hairstyles, hair color, skin color, facial hair. It's pretty simple, and my guy looks like an idiot, but you can't change it in game yet at all, so you have to live with your decisions here. Now, you crash land on an exotic, uncharted island called Aeternum. You had set out from your home country to explore and settle in this new world, and you will quickly find that other folks have already set up shop around here. There's also a mysterious corruption plaguing parts of the island, bringing spooky Oblivion-style gates, haunted ghouls, resurrected corpses, and other monsters. So it's up to you, random adventurer, to help everyone out on the island and grind and become more powerful and I don't know, save the world, I guess. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that the setting and lore setup is fine. And after a brief intro, you're thrust out into this world on your own. Thankfully, with some guidance thanks to some main quests. New World's combat is pretty straightforward. In melee combat, you have a strike, you hold for a heavy strike attack, there's a block, and a dodge that uses a stamina meter. As you level up, you can use points to unlock abilities that are hotkeyed and typically have a cooldown. Anything from a cast, a buff, an AoE attack, a big powerful lunge, a shield bash, stuff like that. You have heavy two-handed weapons, you have spears, axes, swords and shields, magic items with, of course, a mana bar to manage, and ranged weapons like bows or guns. I rocked a musket and basically am grinding to get better at it. It's not the best solo because a lot of enemies rush you, but I've learned when you're with a group, it's fun to hang back and take pot shots, and it actually requires aiming and paying attention. Combat is interesting. You're gonna be into it or you're not. It's MMO combat with a couple of twists. You know, it's not always the most thrilling, but it's engaging enough. A bit like Elder Scrolls Online, but a bit more exchangey, for lack of a better word. Hit your opponent a few times, then block or dodge their attack, then hit them again. Watch out for when they flash and do a bigger attack that you can't block, and rinse and repeat. It becomes more necessary the higher level areas you go. You know, at first you can kind of just hack and slash your way through, but it's a bad habit you end up having to break once you get into like level 15, level 20 enemies in areas. Then you have to pay attention more, dodge at the right time, block at the right time, that type of thing. The biggest issue with the game so far is that the quests are pretty dull and simple. It always is just kind of go here and get this, or, you know, go here and defeat this, with not too much variation. This is kind of like typical of early MMOs, but it just felt extra dull here sometimes because some mission markers are obnoxiously far from where you are, and all you can really do is just stroll along on foot, and there are no mounts yet. So sometimes it can feel pretty tedious, especially when for the third time a quest giver tells you to go to the same place again that's really far, but this time it's to collect a different thing. This is like a fairly obvious negative, and I expect it to get expanded and blown out over time. They do get better the higher levels you get, though, specifically because the enemy types get way cooler, and that did change it up up for me, but still not quite enough. I think it's more noticeable just because the game is a bit of a grind, but not in a way that I dislike it. I've been enjoying hopping in every night, grinding a little bit, watching those bars go up ever so slightly. It can be satisfying in like that old school MMORPG kind of way. And the loot rewards are fairly generous, except for shields. As you can see here, for the first 20 hours or so, like I just didn't drop a new shield. Anyway, you're just trying to get more powerful, and as you level up, it's worth mentioning that you don't really choose a class. You just pursue what you're interested in. I really like the musket, so more and more over time, my proficiency got higher, and I unlocked new musket skills and bonuses. The game also gives you a pretty upfront way of respecking too, which is very nice. Now, you're crafting weapons, items, clothing, all that stuff by mining ore, cutting down trees, spinning fiber, harvesting plants, all of that type of stuff. The crafting is pretty deep and complex, allowing you to dump optional things into crafting trees to like better your chances of a good roll and getting some potential perks. It all just has like the right amount of involvement to it. Seems staggering at first, but once you get into it, it's fairly easy to get, but requires hard work to actually find the good materials and the ways and opportunities to make the great stuff. Plus, the more you cut down trees or skin animals during hunting or smelt iron ore or really anything like that, you're leveling up your proficiency in said trade. And it moves along nicely. It's just like the right satisfying amount of grind, like, at least for me personally. Now, the in-game economy is also kind of weird, but also kind of cool and a bit more experimental. As of right now, there are no merchants, so you can't find some cool boots or ditch your old sword and sell it for a few coins at a merchant. No, there is only a public marketplace where people put stuff up for sale, kind of like public auction. At first, I was annoyed, but then I grew to kind of enjoy it. It's not perfect, and it slows things down, but I had fun checking the marketplace every few hours to see what people have added. Sometimes there are surprises. Other times, there's just a bunch of garbage. Also, kind of unrelated, but I wanted to mention it, the fishing here is okay, and really seems to keep some people busy. Now, the world itself is my favorite aspect of this game, and it's going to make me come back to it. It can be absolutely beautiful at times. Great music to it, but like cool woods, mountains, jungles, beaches, mysterious stuff. The lighting is really good. The detail is surprisingly intense, especially in lush woods, and it all feels pretty massive. There's tons of flora and fauna and innocent creatures and deadly predators. It also feels a little bit lonely and lifeless too, unfortunately. Like there's not a lot of NPC action in this game yet. They could really use them to flesh out the world even more, because right now it can feel pretty empty. Now, speaking of areas, there's territory standing as well for character progression. This acts as kind of like a level up feature for different regions you're in, and the more you do in an area, the more you level up this standing, where you're then allowed to choose fun bonuses like better crafting efficiencies, more storage at the towns, or gaining more XP while you're questing in these regions, stuff like that. Now, the other big thing about this game is kind of like the faction war and map control. You choose one of three factions. They are the holy roller type guys, the brutal warrior mean guys, or the sneaky creepy guys. You get faction specific quests and rewards from them in typical fashion, but you can also engage in some pretty high concept PvP stuff that's kind of like territory control. Now, I unfortunately haven't been able to experience too much of this, but I've lived in this world for a bit, so let me explain it. PvP is very easily engaged. You basically switch it on and off, but the map itself is really big, and it's divided up by ownership of the different factions. So there's like a long-term game of turf war going on. Through doing PvP stuff like faction-specific PvP missions, you can chip away at the standing, and a company can declare war on a territory to try and control it, which turns into a big fort capture or defend battle. Whoever wins and gains control has their banners strewn throughout the towns and is in charge of making decisions like taxes and prices on homes you can buy in the towns, and just generally controls the economy. You get some added benefits too if you're a player and you're in the same faction that happens to control an area too, which is pretty nice and noticeable enough. It's all fun and interesting, and it has at least the potential to keep people busy for a while, because it's one of the bigger standout features of the game, and I've observed a lot of people really engaging all in on it. Now, does New World like revolutionize MMOs? Does this one change the thing? No, not really in a lot of ways. It feels like it's just doing another one. It felt like Amazon was like, we can do that, not Amazon going, oh, we have a crazy new idea. But it still has its own respectable new spin on a few things. But those spins on things, you know, the combat, the type of characters you can build, the world, seem like really exciting foundation points for something that could become greater. You know, more stuff, more mission variety, deeper elements all around, more lively environments, more movement options, and deeper community options. The game can become even better. Along with that, some technical stuff as well. I had a few crashes, sometimes in key moments, which was pretty frustrating, and some visual bugs out there too. Also worth pointing out, the community seems pretty cool. I've seen a few jerks here and there, but mostly just people who are down to help, down to group up, and lots of people providing constructive feedback about the games. And of course, the game, and especially the tougher quests, get much better when you're playing with a group, a luxury that I only had when I found a good random group because I couldn't convince any of my friends to buy this. It's worth pointing out, like if you're looking to solo this MMO, it's not the worst one to solo, but it's still not super fun. So if you're not the biggest MMO person, you haven't played one in a while, you might find this one interesting, but like if you're still playing Final Fantasy, I don't think it's gonna pull you away. At least not yet, maybe one day. I think this is fine. I'm gonna keep going, but I can't wait to bounce out and then hop back in a year from now and see what's changed. It's not full priced. It didn't hurt me too much to buy it. I just like the world enough that I'll give it another shot down the line. But I like where New World is going. You get what I'm saying? But of course, this is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. Now I want to hear yours. Maybe you're one of the people who've already put 200 hours into this game. I know you're out there. I'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe you're someone who hasn't touched it. Let me know what you're thinking. Let's talk anything New World down in the comments. Now, if this video even just kind of informed you a little bit, maybe helped you out, all you got to do is click the like button. It would legitimately help us out. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.